everything is an intimidating game to play. Judging from its trailers, title, and how it's a follow-up to Mountain, an experimental game where the interaction was minimal to none depending on your viewpoint, it's easy to dismiss everything as a weird art project that will only appeal to the snobbiest of the highbrow gaming enthusiasts. The goal was to create a philosophical journey where the main power is being. With this project, the team set out to expand what they were attempting to do in Mountain, in lead developer David O'Reilly's own words, with much more depth and in a much more fun way. Is the game a more focused vision of what he and his team were attempting to do in Mountain, and what the hell is a game about being? Well, let's talk everything. David O'Reilly is most well known as an animator and filmmaker, having done work for Adult Swim, directing an episode of Adventure Time, and even doing the animation for the fake video game featured in the Spike Jonze film Her. Having an interest in learning Unity, he was introduced to Austin-based programmer Damien DeFede, and the two went to make Mountain, released in 2014. The idea of the experience is that you don't so much play the game as leave it alone in the background and see what happens after a long period of time. In a lot of ways, it felt more like a living, breathing thing than just another video game. It went on to be a divisive game amongst the game press and community, where it did find praise on websites like Gamasutra and Wired. YouTuber Total Biscuit gave his usual detailed thesis, dissecting the deep intricacies and unpacking the themes of the project. While this intellectual deconstruction isn't cited as a direct influence, what did the team do next? I couldn't have planned that better if I tried. Mountain was admittedly O'Reilly's first attempt at making a video game. From that, the team wanted to expand on the idea of being an object and having a hell of a lot more to say about it. The main thing you'll be doing in everything is exploring and discovering the world, infinity, and beyond. My own run began as an animal, and after doing a little bit of exploring, I was able to do what the game calls bond with larger things and objects near me and able to control them. Every time I found a new object that I can interact with for a few seconds, it would list it in the game's menu amongst the things in the game that I bonded with. This list is enormous, as my 4-hour playthrough had me finding and listing around 350 things, and I've only found about a fourth of everything there is to find. When I say you can expand and shrink, I don't just mean in this small area of land. You can expand from the ground to a field, to the surface of the planet, to the solar system, to an enormous galaxy. It essentially changes the playfield on the larger world where you came from and lets you control the new objects in that area. So earlier I was controlling a bison, later on I can control a planet. This order goes the other way as well, where I could go from the surface, to the ground, to the different dust particles, all the way to the DNA strands. Where it goes if you descend beyond that, I'm not telling. Exploring and finding all the different things in the world you can control is one of the main draws here. You can essentially bond with anything, no matter the size of the area or the object. Even continents can dance and create a new continent, giving you a new world to explore and find new objects. The interaction in the game is simple here, with moving, singing, finding new objects, and making everything dance is essentially all that you can do, but the world has so much stuff, variety, and character that it didn't feel old or repetitive. There is the ability to create new objects that I've mentioned earlier by having a similar or the same objects dance with each other, giving you a prompt to make a new object that will appear in the middle. And later in the game, you'll be given the ability to plop any object that you found anywhere in the universe. It's going to be interesting to see the weird, crazy stuff people can create with this. Exploring and making different continents dance with each other isn't the only appeal in the game, as it's actually very intelligent. As you explore, you'll find different thoughts of the different things that are around you, as well as excerpts from the lectures of Alan Watts, a British-American philosopher. Watts, as described in the game, was a prolific writer, speaker, interpreter, and popularizer of Eastern philosophy in the West.
You can get a certain vision of life where everything is seen to be a complex pattern of rhythm. Dances, the human dance, the flower dance, the bee dance, the giraffe dance. And that's what this all is, it's jazz. This is a big jazz, this world.
The messages have a very zen tone to them, questioning vocabulary, your place in the world, and tying it right into the main theme as O'Reilly is described as a game about being. The hexagon logo in the game is actually a perfect encapsulation of the game's main idea. Everything is connected to one another, and it needs to be. As Watts describes it, the game is how the chaos of tiny cells in your body contribute to the harmony of the larger body. How the enormous depends on the tiny depends on the enormous, and how everything is essential to the whole thing. Everything bonds together to create one. And as you hear his discussions, it gives the whole game a bit of a music video vibe, where it's inviting you to ponder into its ideas in such a way as you staring up into the night sky, wondering what your place is in the world. Another big carryover from the game Mountain is the addition of a feature called autoplay. If you don't touch your controller for a few seconds, the game will control your character and start moving and exploring the world by itself. You have several different meters that you can set, such as being able to ascend or descend, finding new thoughts, and these can all be switched on how often you want to do them. I tried it a few times on my playthrough, and very much like Mountain, it gives the game a feeling that it's a living, breathing thing. Granted, if you wanted to make actual progress in the game quickly, it's better just to take the controls for yourself. I'm sure this feature will inspire many dismissive, petty arguments against the game on why would I play this game if it could just play itself. Granted, it would be at least a little bit chuckle-worthy to see a video pop up called Everything Wrong with Everything. But Everything really isn't a skill-based game, and the point isn't just to check off that huge checklist, but about enjoying the moment and taking the time to think about the ideas being presented. And if you think about the context of the world, this idea makes a lot of sense. You're no longer taking control of the thing, so it's just going to go back to being its own living, breathing part of the universe. The game did suffer from a few issues during my playthrough. I played this on a regular PlayStation 4 and not a PlayStation 4 Pro, and had minor frame rate drops in certain sections, and the game did crash once in my playthrough, but only once. Unintentional glitches were rare, but did rear their ugly heads, and later in the game, when you're in a section that's cut off from the rest of the universe, it gives you some deceptive instructions on how to get out. There's a small hint giving you the controls on how to free your mind, but when you try it after reading this hint, nothing happens. It turns out in this section I overlooked an area where you can find this power, but I could see a few new players being thrown off from this small prompt. Or maybe I'm just a dunce. Having said that, the final payoff for this section is a great meta cap on the few hours that I started to play, as well as a hilarious joke on video game endings, which I dare not spoil. Like I said, there aren't a lot of goals for you to accomplish outside of finding all the different things, as well as the meta section I mentioned earlier, and I can't say this will appeal to those looking for a challenge outside of thinking about the philosophy. In many ways, it feels like what David O'Reilly wants a game to be, not so much fitting into a preconceived genre like a platformer or an adventure game. Everything is a perfect example of it is what you make of it. If dilly-dallying around the universe, listening to philosophy, trying to find every new thing you can dance and create objects with around you doesn't sound that appealing, this might not be for you. For creative players who enjoy screwing around in the world and making strange and ridiculous things to share on the internet, this thing is going to be a godsend only limited to your imagination. In my own playthrough, I was able to create this body of whales swimming around a big snowy area. It was a strange and beautiful moment of my creation that I won't soon forget. In spite of the game's flaws, I had a great time with everything. There's such a quirky charm to its progression design, and the ideas it presents with its philosophy don't intimidate, but were an inviting, enlightening exploration. I'm sure that many will be put off by its simplistic mechanical design or art direction, but in terms of creating a much more in-depth take on Mountain, the team absolutely accomplished that. This game is the equivalent of staring up into the stars, questioning your own experience and being humbled by your place inside of it all. And it's a game where you can do this. And I guess that's everything. Had to do it at least once. Feel free to check out other things with other videos on indie games. Also, feel free to subscribe to hear about when new videos are going to be released. A big thanks to Double Fine and the Everything team for the review code, and of course, thank you for watching.